The following program contains language and scenes that some viewers might find objectionable. Discretion in viewing is advised.
Frederic Bourdin's chilling impersonation of one missing Texas teenager, Nicholas Barclay, is a case study in psychological manipulation, in exploiting grief, and the terrifying power of one lie. What begins as a bizarre fraud spirals into something far darker, raising questions about the Barclay family's complicity, the failures of international authorities, and whether one man, a pathological liar, may have stumbled upon a hidden crime. This twisted tale blurs the lines between victim and predator, leaving an unsettling question: who was really fooling whom? This story opens with a seemingly altruistic act. A man calls a Spanish police station, claiming to have found a lost child. But when officers arrive, there is no boy. Only one, Nicholas Bourdin, a 23-year-old French drifter with a history of impersonating children. You see, his performance is flawless, wide-eyed, vulnerable, the perfect victim. And so authorities take him to a shelter where he plants the first seeds of his deception, declaring himself an American runaway. But you see, Bourdin doesn't just claim to be any random missing child. He methodically hunts for the right one, digging through case file after case file, like a predator, selecting their prey. Now, Nicholas Barclay was missing since 1994, and he became Bourdin's target. Using stolen case details, he morphs into Nicholas, dyeing his hair blonde, mimicking his speech, and even tattooing himself to match the descriptions. He manipulates international agencies, posing as officials to extract more information, and tightening his grip on his lie. And as the story grows, it becomes increasingly more grotesque. He claims to have been trafficked all over the world by a global ring that involved high-ranking agencies and militaries. It was a narrative so horrifying that it paralyzes skepticism. When Nicholas's sister arrived in Spain, she jumped and embraced Bourdin without any hesitation. She looked right into his eyes and believed him. And back in Texas, most of the family follow suit, especially Nicholas's mother, who clings on to the imposter with desperate hope. Yet the discrepancies are glaring. Bourdin is about 7 years older than Nicholas. His accent is all wrong. His eyes are darker than the striking blue of her son. The family's willingness to accept him, despite all the red flags, hint at something much darker. Were they fooled by grief Or was the family hiding something? A private investigator and an FBI agent grow suspicious of Nicholas. Bourdin's fingerprints eventually expose him, revealing a long criminal history. But while in custody, he delivers one final and devastating blow that the family who accepted him knew all along, and that they accepted him because the real Nicholas was already dead, and his brother is the one who took his life. The accused brother, Jason, is already deceased by this time, a perfect, untouchable scapegoat in the entire story. And police were skeptical as well, as in 1994, Nicholas's brother had called them and reported that he saw Nicholas trying to break back into the family home before running off. And reports by police indicate that they did not believe his story. Police would even suspect Nicholas's mother of some involvement. They would perform a polygraph test on her regarding Nicholas, which she would pass, but she would fail a second test when it was administered. And with Nicholas's brother's death due to a drug overdose, of which he became addicted to post Nicholas's disappearance, the case would stall. And Bourdin's lie now forces an impossible question. Is he a monster, or did he expose one? Now, the case itself ends without resolution. Bourdin eventually does serve time. Nicholas remains missing, and the Barclays have since retreated into silence. The truth is now buried beneath layers of deception, leaving only eerie possibilities. Was Bourdin a master manipulator who exploited a family's tragedy? Or did he, in his own twisted way, uncover a murder? But the most haunting figure is the real Nicholas Barclay, forever lost. His fate remains unknown, while an imposter wore his life like a mask. This story isn't just about a con artist. It's about the fragility of truth. Bourdin's deception preyed on the universal need to believe in miracles, and exposes how easily grief can be weaponized. But the lingering doubt of why the family believed him at all elevates this from just another true crime oddity and turns it into a psychological horror story. Lost on Everest is a gripping account of the 2019 expedition to locate one Andrew Sandy Irvine and a missing camera that could rewrite Everest's history. While this story is rooted in real-life exploration, the chilling elements, unrecovered corpses, vanishing climbers, and the mountain's indifferent brutality create an atmosphere of unsettling horror. The narrative forces us to question whether some mysteries should remain buried in the snow. Mount Everest is what is considered an open graveyard, littered with the perfectly preserved corpses of climbers who never made it back down. The expedition team in question encounters multiple bodies along their route up, some decades old, others quite recent. The description of a, quote, recently deceased climber marking Hosel's spot is particularly haunting. It's a grim signpost in the search for the missing Irvine. The idea that these corpses remain frozen in time, some still in their final climbing positions, adds a macabre layer to this frozen journey. As the team make their ascent up the mountain, Mark Sanat makes a reckless decision. He decides to unclip from the safety rope, an act that mirrors Mallory and Irvine's fatal ambition to reach the summit. His later regret, realizing he risked leaving his children fatherless, echoes the tragic fate of those who push too far. The mountain's indifference to human life is a recurring horror. As the filmmaker observes, no matter how many die, more will always come. The missing vest pocket camera worn by Irvine becomes a spectral presence within this story. If found, it could potentially rewrite history, but its absence feels deliberate, almost as if Everest itself is guarding the truth. The idea that this undeveloped film might still exist, frozen for a century, is both thrilling and eerie. What if the final photo shows us something completely unexpected? Everest is portrayed less as a climb and more as a sentient force in the film. The altitude sickness, the sudden storms they face, the hidden crevices feel more like deliberate obstacles in their journey. It seems that the mountain chooses who will survive and who will join its collection of fallen corpses. And it's this idea that makes this expedition story transcend simple adventure. It's a horror tale told in slow motion. The frozen bodies, the missing film, and an ever-present risk of joining them create an atmosphere of ever-creeping dread. Even in failure, the mystery lives on. Did Mallory and Irvine ever reach the summit? And if so, will Everest ever let us know the truth? The tragic and unsettling case of one Joyce Carol Vincent, a woman whose decomposed body lay undiscovered in her London flat for over 2 years, reads like a modern-day ghost story. While rooted in reality, The circumstances around her death evoke a deep and creeping horror. The idea that a person can vanish in plain sight, and that society can forget someone so completely, and that the trappings of daily life can outlast the human form. This is not a tale of murder or the supernatural, but something far more disturbing: the sheer indifference of the world, and one left to a solitary death. Vincent's body lay in her flat for 2 years before ultimately being discovered. Despite neighbors, housing officials, and even a welfare system, all failed to notice. The simple fact that her television remained on, her heating kept running, and her rent was still being paid creates an uncanny dissonance. Life continued around her, but it did not for her. The smell of decomposition was dismissed as simple garbage, and the constant television noise was absorbed into the building's ambient sound. The real horror lies in how easily a person can become so invisible. Among the most haunting of details is that Vincent was found surrounded by gifts that she had wrapped, suggesting she had died around the holidays. Were they for family? For friends? Whatever the case, those presents were never delivered and became symbols of severed connections, small, tragic monuments to a life cut off mid-gesture, and no one in her immediate or extended family all the wiser. But how could a person become so forgotten? Well, Vincent's bills were paid via direct debit. Her rent was covered by housing benefits, and it seems that no human being ever checked in on her. The system, one designed for efficiency, became a macabre enabler of her posthumous anonymity. The flat's double-locked doors also imply that she died alone, with no one even knocking to check in. Eventually, Vincent's sisters hired a private detective and also contacted the local Salvation Army, but nothing came of it. Letters sent to her old address went unanswered, leading everyone to believe that Vincent had seemingly cut ties deliberately. The idea that a person can both be missed and overlooked at the very same time is heartbreaking, and one wonders how everyone missed a simple visit to her home. By the time she was eventually found, her body was so decayed that it was mostly skeletal, identifiable only through dental records. The lack of a conclusive autopsy means that even her final moments remain a mystery to us. Did she suffer? Did she cry out? Her silence is deafening. Joyce Vincent's story is a chilling meditation on urban isolation, on bureaucratic indifference, and on the fragility of human connection. There are no monsters here, just the slow, quiet horror of a person being completely forgotten. Her fate forces us to ask a hard question. How many others are there out there right now, lying undiscovered? And when was the last time you checked in on an old friend or loved one?